Welcome to Football Today, August 6, 2024. I'm your host, Bobby Skinny, with my co-host, Justin Pennick. So from now on, you're probably going to be seeing, it's just going to be a little more me and Justin. Rose is no longer with the company. So
oh my God.
We're doing, it'll be, it's not announced now, but it'll be announced when people are listening.
It's just not true.
Tuesday morning.
That's just not true.
All right, I guess someone's not in the know.
It's not true.
We're doing over-unders for the NFL season today, so really excited to get into it. We watched the Hall of Fame game. You saw the new kickoff rule. We have not a lot to get into, but we're going to get into the things that we need to get into. Justin, what's up?
Hey, Bobby Skinner. We are going to be witnessing a lot of joint practices within the next week or so. We are currently in the middle of witnessing Giants-Lions joint practice. Giants,
which has been described as the most physical practice maybe ever known to man, like from the Giants and the Lions reporters.
No, but it's but then you look at Steelers camp.
Jets Commanders is going to get nuts. We'll be there Thursday.
Yeah, and then we're going to
Patriots Eagles. We're going to be hitting a lot of joint practices.
Yeah, so Giants Lions was fun. Giants looked a little bit better than kind of expected. But it's really funny that, like, we had the reports and everything coming out of Giants camp. It's like, oh my God, look at how physical the practices are. Look at the fights, and then that's kind of like every day in Pittsburgh. And I think I got a kick out of that today.
Mike Tomlin runs a ship over there. It's not super tight, but they like to fight. And you could see Tomlin in the background.
Oh, well, he's like nodding his head, like, yeah, get after it.
That's the thing where coaches will preach they don't want you to fight.
Oh, they're lying.
But in reality, they love when you fight.
Yep.
And I love camp fights too, right? There's a portion of people who complain about them. They don't accomplish. I disagree. I think they accomplish a lot. One, it's a brotherhood type thing. Mm-hmm. It's getting respect of even if you're fighting your own teammates. It's kind of a respect thing. It is truly a brotherhood. Like I've had bloody knuckles before after a practice, and I go and fist bump the other guy with bloody knuckles because we're punching the shit out of each other. So it's we're comparing hands after it. So I love training camp.
It's also how you get diseases.
That's a misconception from the 90s. Let's get into the NFL overs and unders. So I'm going to let you kind of lead the way with the overs and unders.
Yeah, sure. Then we're doing this all via the DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll talk about them later. And I'll tell you what, man. Initial thoughts on these over unders. Our producer Mikey put these together for us, like just a bunch of list of players, and then we're choosing the specific players that we want to talk about from the list.
They're low.
They're low. I actually,
it's like, do you get hurt or not?
Not that I didn't believe Mikey, but it's like all of these were so low that I had to confirm them on the DraftKings Sportsbook, and yeah, they're
basically like, right. Do you miss 4 games or more or not?
Yeah,
that's what it is, right? And we do our over unders for our Talking Giants,
and make them.
I try and make them. I actually turn them into yards per game, just so we're not talking about injury really in it. But these are, like, I had to make, like, part of the unders on, like, a good amount of the unders on them aren't even about the individual player. They're about, like, historical trends and, consistency and betting. Like, hey, maybe this is a guy who misses a few games. But we tried to go away from injury-prone players in this. Yeah. So we're not having a conversation of is this, like, we're not going to do the Mike Williams over-under. I don't feel like discussing if this is the year he plays 15 games or whatever it is.
No. So we'll start off with over-under passing yards. And we're going to do 4 players per kind of spot and per stat. We'll start off with CJ Stroud at 4,150 and a half. Are you going over or under?
So I am going over, but this was the most difficult one for me because this is 42 more passing yards than he had last season, but he did miss 2 games last year. But hey, he could miss 2 games again. There's a couple things going against him though, right? He had the greatest deep ball success in NFL history, which is awesome. But teams are going to try and take that away, and they can be just as efficient, but will you have the amount of volume? And even if teams don't take it away, you're not going to translate that. You're not going to have that success in 2 years in a row. It's just history would tell you that a guy can't have the best deep ball passing stats since it's been tracked, and he's just going to do better the next year. So even if he's the same player, it's not going to be good as that. And he led the NFL in yards per game last year and was only 42 more yards over this.
Yeah, so basically 5 QBs did this in 2023. with 250 yards per game. Let me start off with this. So even if the yards per game, you mentioned that he led the league in it, even if that goes down to 250 yards per game and he plays 17 games, it's still 100 yards to the good with 4,150 and a half. So that would be 4,250. 5 QBs did this in 2023, and 8 did it in 2022. So basically, this is a question on if you think CJ Stroud will finish top 6-ish in passing yards. And last year, he was 8th, even when he missed 2 games. So I'm going an easy over, especially when you include the fact that, okay, well, could the league start to quote-unquote figure it out? That's been a question that we've talked about all offseason. I lean, it's not that the league may figure it out, it's just that I think the league may limit, and like you said, he won't have the same deep ball success, but you're also adding Stephon Diggs to this mix.
That's okay, so I added that in there, right? You add Stephon Diggs into the equation. He's the type of receiver you have to get touches, right? Or you're dealing with an unhappy player, and they knew that when they brought him in. And also another thing is they weren't a great rushing team last year, right? They're 28th in yards per carry. They replaced Singletary with Mixon, who's an upgrade, but at the same time, Mixon has missed games here and there. I
don't think Mixon is as much of an upgrade as people think. But overall, I don't
think he's an upgrade, though.
I don't view the Texans' rushing offense as being like, oh my god, well, it's going to be such an advantage.
No, I don't either. But I do think it's going to be an upgrade. But I don't think they're going to be a team that rushes the ball. Where that's their change this year is that they're actually they're running the ball for a lot of volume. I think their goal is probably to be a little more efficient, but they're going to run the ball a decent amount in a Bobby Slowick offense.
Yeah, they like to do it.
But again, last year he did this last year while missing 2 games. So you can equate two missed games, and he still probably hits this. So I'm going over on.
Yeah,
this.
I'm going over too. This wasn't fully a tough over for me because I said
the QB passing ones are probably the easier ones.
Yeah, I think even if that goes down to 250 yards per game and he plays 17 games, then he's still in the good with this. And I really don't anticipate there being almost a 25 yard per game drop because I think CJ Stroud is that good. I think the Texans are going to rely on him, and I think that they should because
they're just going to have so many answers in the passing game too.
It's the identity of their team.
Yeah, they're going to have so many answers in the passing game. They're going to have more trust. Like, obviously, they gained trust in the season, but did they go through camp last year thinking, this is the type of guy
thinking that we're going to have, that we have the quarterback who's going to have one of the best rookie seasons ever?
Yeah, so I think that's an over. The next one to me is the easiest over out of all of these.
Yeah, so we have Kyler Murray with 3,400 and a half yards, 3,400 and a half yards. I am going easy over, and if not to totally just bring injuries and health into this, but every year that Kyler Murray has been healthy, there was even a year where he missed like 2 games and he still got over this number. I'll flip it into this. Like, you're also going over.
Yeah.
So is this not the best offensive situation that Kyler Murray's ever been in? Maybe you can argue 2021.
That first year, DeAndre Hopkins, they had
Christian Kirk,
AJ Green. Even though he wasn't putting up the numbers, he did add something to them. They brought in Zach Ertz. So I wouldn't. I think it's on its way to being that, but I wouldn't. But this isn't like he did this his first 3 seasons when healthy.
Yeah.
He did it twice. 2 of those were in 16-game seasons. Missed 3 in 2021 and did. Even his worst yards per game in 2022 would put him at 260 yards over this if he played the full season. And his team upgrade, like Trey McBride was essentially his wide receiver 1 last year, and you get an upgrade with Marvin Harrison Jr. Does Kyler miss 5 again? Another does this guy miss games or more stat? Like the DJ Stroud one, that one's pretty tough because that's just such a high number. Not a lot of guys do that every year. With Kyler, he does this. He's on rate to do this every single year that he plays. Yeah, and by a wide margin too.
And I mean, I really don't think
like his worst yard per game season would put him 260 yards ahead of this.
Right. I guess the last 2 years, but besides the major injury that he suffered in 2022, he hasn't been a quarterback that's consistently missed games.
No, it's like you said, he's had one injury and it leaked into the next season.
Yeah, for sure. So if you listen to our Cardinals TPP, you know how happy and excited we are about this Cardinals offense. And even if they are a little bit more run heavy, I think that's
That's
only
another thing. They're very,
But they're good. They were a very good rushing team last year. One of the more efficient teams in the second half of the year, especially when Kyler Murray was back under center. Even if they are going to lean on the run, I still think this is an easy over for Kyler Murray. And if anything, the run game is going to help him open some more stuff down the field.
Yeah, this is just an easy number for him.
Now,
I want to go bet all these overs, honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
I actually might do that right now. James Cook is plus 4,000 to lead the league in rushing. I think he was 4th last year.
Look at this.
No, he was not. He was 10th last year. No, that's attempts. He was 4th last year. So he was 4th last year, 10th in attempts. We don't expect Kyron Williams to maybe do that. Henry, will he get that? McCaffrey, he misses games every year. I'm putting $5 to win 205 on James Cook to lead the league. They don't have the same receivers.
I know, and they're going to lean on the run.
They've kept the same offensive coordinator who let James Cook do this.
Joe Brady got the reputation from Carolina and then from LSU being like, oh, well, he's this guy that just wants to throw the ball. And I think some stuff has come out since his Carolina days. It's like, no, there was a little bit of an ownership pressure that just really wants to be analytical and throw the ball. And I think he wants to be a little bit more run heavy in the NFL. So that's plus 4,000.
Yep, I just bet it. I skipped past all the other stuff.
Sheesh.
Bet $5. All right, what's the next one?
The next one, I think we're going to disagree on this. This is going to be the first one that we disagree on. Patrick Mahomes, 4,350 and a half passing yards, over, under. Bobby Skinner, what are you going with?
So when I first saw that number, I was like, ooh, that's a lot. I think I'm going to go under on that. But then I went and looked at it. He hasn't done this once in the last 4 years. One time he has not hit this mark in the last 4 years, and it was last year. Missing by 170 yards, so 10 yards per game essentially. The offense is going to be more explosive, right? With the addition of Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, it's going to be more explosive. And last year they weren't explosive at all, not even close. They had all the drop passes last year, and they had a genuinely bad offense for a portion of the season last year. So am I going to bet on last year, which was kind of the outlier year for the Chiefs offense, or every other year Patrick Mahomes? I'm betting on every other year, so I'm going over. But when I saw that number, I thought it would go under, and then I looked at the past years, and it's I'm betting on history here.
Let's see. So Kansas City was bad radio on my end. They were middle of the pack in explosive plays. You had San Fran that led the league with 75. San Fran had 52, and Carolina was last with 31. So 52 pass plays of 20-plus yards. They were right in the middle. New Orleans had the same amount. Bobby, I'm going under. I think he goes over what he did last year, but still under that 43.50 and a half mark. I think on paper, the additions of I think Hollywood Brown's going to be fine, but I think on paper, you look at they're going to be more explosive. I'm a little worried about Xavier Worthy just dealing with NFL strength and dealing with is he just going to be able to outrun everybody?
I don't think Xavier Worthy is going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, but I think he's going to be someone that they're going to use to create explosives.
Okay.
Give him free releases, put him in motion. There's no team that uses motion better than the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think Xavier Worthy comes in and steps up and, he's a wide receiver one in the NFL. But you have Hollywood, who's, the one Lamar receiver to ever have 1,000 receiving yards. And you have Travis Kelce, who's still going to be the number one option in that passing tag. Rashee Rice had 850 receiving yards, or almost 900 receiving yards last year in the slot, a little bit on the outside. I just think what team is better at creating free releases than the Kansas City Chiefs?
Right, but then also,
especially with the way teams play them.
Well, right, and that's the exact point.
And if you press them and you miss, then you're fucked.
Right, but that's the exact point of how teams are going to play the Kansas City Chiefs. It's just the priority is to not let them get behind you. Now, the personnel is certainly a little bit better. When you have
those guys, you know how to create. You know how to get them. I
think we may be overrating them a little bit.
Who, Worthy and Hollywood?
Yeah. Thinking that they're going to help. I'm not saying they're not going to help, but make them.
I'm looking at it from the point of view of look at what they did last year. with receivers dropping the ball awful, turning into interceptions.
Yeah, and that personnel to be middle of the pack in explosive plays is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and again, especially with the way that defenses play with them, right? And Patrick Mahomes is bottom of the league in average depth of target. So he's not throwing the ball down the field a lot. But the thing is when he does, they know how to make it hit. And again, Andy Reid is the best at, hey, I know you're playing us this way. I know how to get you out of position and create that explosion. You don't think teams played them that way when they had Tyreek Hill, but they had a guy like Tyreek Hill who they knew how to get in those situations. Think of the game-winning play versus the 49ers. You don't think that was a defense call to stop a big play, but they had the guys to do that. Now, obviously, Hollywood and Worthy aren't Tyreek Hill, but what I'm saying is no team is going to can get the most out of their personnel than the Kansas City Chiefs because they have Andy Reid and they have Patrick Mahomes, two guys who adjust to the guys they have, and they just have more explosive weapons, and they can still do the low average depth of target, Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce passing game too.
And there's still I major question marks with their tackle situation as well. That's not very fun. That's probably going to impact the average at the target and the time to throw unless Mahomes can just he is going to do hero stuff. And then also, do they want to lean into the run game more? Which I think that's a huge part of this as well. I think 37 attempts he averaged per game last year. If you divide 597 divided by 16, since he played in 16 games last year, that's 37 attempts. I could see that number going down a little bit.
But there's been people have begged for them to be the team that just run the ball. Their answer to that is Mahomes is the one guy who you can trust to run these long drives and not turn over the ball.
Right.
So I just don't see. That, and that's just not in Andy Reid's blood.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do that.
Right.
Even when he really, really should, he doesn't want to do that. So I don't see that number over maybe for a 2-3 game stretch. But Mahomes has done this 3 out of 4 seasons in his career. I think he's going to do it again.
Right.
Or 3 out of the last 4 years, and the other year he was injured.
He was without Tyreek Hill in 2022, correct?
Correct.
And he threw for over 5,000 yards.
Yes, correct. Over 5,000 yards.
Who were his receivers? MVS?
No, he wasn't there. It was Juju.
Yeah.
Juju.
Was Hardman there?
Yes, Mecole Hardman, Tony
Tony for part of the year. Sky Moore's rookie year. Justin Watson.
Justin Watson, who has been their big play threat the last couple of years. So let's look at the Chiefs' 2022 top receivers. Obviously, Kelce leads the way. Juju was second. Oh yeah, MVS was there.
Yeah.
Justin Watson, Jerick McKinnon, Noah Gray, Miko. I mean, that's an awful group outside of Kelce.
This is better. This is much better.
That's an
Hollywood Brown is the key to it.
Yeah. So again, if you just added Xavier Worthy, I do think people would be over it and now they're gonna. But when you added Worthy and Hollywood Brown, well, now you're able to have a little fun on that offense.
All right, so you have over Patrick Mahomes 43.50.5, 4,350, and I have under. The last quarterback that we're going to talk about, Caleb Williams at 3,500.5 passing yards. Bobby Skinner.
This is kind of easy for me. Let's go through the top 10 QBs to do this and to not do this. Or top 15 QBs to do this. Stroud, yes. Bryce Young, no. Trevor Lawrence, yeah. Remember how bad his rookie year was? Trevor Lawrence, yes. Zach Wilson, no. Trey Lance, no. Didn't play. Justin Fields, no. Well, even Fields, Matt Jones, yes. Joe Burrow, no, but he had 2,610 games. Tua, no. He didn't really play. Herbert, yes. Kyler, yes. Daniel Jones, no, but was 300 yards short in 12 games played. And then Dwayne Haskins, no. So it's basically are you a good QB and do you play... do you have any chance of being a good QB and do you play the full season?
Yeah, I'm over.
Yeah. So not even just good. Are you going to be an awful QB? Are you an awful QB or are you not going to play the full season? So I'm going over too. Especially with the weapons that they have.
He would need to average 205 passing yards per game over 17 games to get here, and Jake Browning and Russell Wilson were the two QBs around that 205 passing yards per game mark last year.
Yeah. Caleb, I don't think he's ever dealt with injuries at USC or Oklahoma.
No.
This should be an easy one. Let's move on.
Moving on. Now, receiving yards. This is where it gets Yes, it gets a little bit more interesting. We're gonna talk about some rookies, and we're gonna talk about a good amount of receivers. So maybe we'll just bang out.
I get some good Odunze past last year numbers.
So let's talk about two of the rookie receivers that we want to touch on. Marvin Harrison Jr. at 1,000.5, and Odunze at 675.5. Want to start off with Odunze?
Yeah, let's start with Odunze because I think this is the most interesting. I'm going under. Because there's just so many things going against him to do it. One, DJ Moore was 6th in receiving last year. He's going to get his yard. He's the one on that team. Then you bring in 1,200-yard receiver last year, Keenan Allen. I think he's the number 2 on that team, but he's the vet. You want to give him his touches, right? You have Cole Kmet, who gets his yards, and they're another team that wants to run the ball. And also, I do think Odunze, out of the top 3 receivers, is the one not ready. Not the one that might take a little bit of adjustment time into the NFL, right? I don't think he's going to have the day one success that Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors would have. So he has all those things. And then I went and looked last year. Teams last year where their third leading receiver had over this 675 yards. There was only 3. The Jags, where Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, and then Christian Kirk had 788. The Vikings, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and then Jordan Addison had 911. The 49ers, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and then Deebo Samuel, 892. And also part of that, no number 3 wide receiver did it, right? So it was only teams that had a tight end that was in their top 2 for receiving with Ingram, Hawkinson, and Kittle. So and it's not like the Bears don't have a tight end who gets yards. Cole Kmet, I think he had 800 or so yards last year. So it's just there's so much going against him for him to do it. So I'm going to go under on this. And it doesn't mean he doesn't have a successful rookie year. There's just way too many mouths to feed on that offense.
I'm going to go over because I don't think Keenan Allen's going to stay healthy. And that's fair.
But here's the thing. If Keenan Allen misses 5 games, I think this is still under. If Keenan Allen misses 14 games, then I'll go under. Like Keenan Allen has to miss more than half of the season for me to go over on this.
I compare it to Jackson Smith and Jigba, where I was expecting JSN and that Seahawks offense. It's like, oh my God, well, a pretty dynamic Seahawks passing offense. They add a guy like JSN to Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. So it's kind of similar, and it's the same offense coordinator. How do you like that? Jackson Smith and Jigba, 628 yards. Who do you think is more NFL ready at their respective stages of their careers? JSN heading into last year or Odunze?
Odunze, but JSN's going to get a lot of more opportunities playing in the slot.
And he did 63 catches, which is a good amount. It's only 10 yards.
Which
per
even
reception.
if we think he gets 700 yards, it would be on less than 63 catches for Odunze.
It would have to be.
Right, so where JSN was low average, I think he was bottom 5 in average depth of target last year.
Yeah, 6.1 is crazy.
Yeah, might even been dead last. So he's just not going to get the opportunity. So JSN, when I went through all this, was the one maybe if he almost did it, they could do it.
But they do play different.
And I think he was the number 3 wide receiver that was closest to the mark. But I just
no. But there are a lot of mouths to feed.
If Cole Kmet wasn't on this team, you have a better argument. If they weren't a team that was dedicated to the run game, but it's just. Every factor is pointing to Odunze kind of being the 5th option for this offense on any given down.
Okay. I said over. I'll stick with it.
He's a bigger guy, so he's he can separate, but he doesn't separate the same way that Harrison Jr. and Neighbors do. He does do a good job on contested balls, but I don't think he's going to have the same exact success right away, nor will he get the same amount of opportunities without being the number 1 wide receiver. So I think there's a lot of things pointing to under with Odunze.
Okay. All right. So you're going under and I'll go over.
With Harrison Jr., are you over 1,000.5 yards?
This is tough, man. You sit here and say if Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson did it in worse offensive situations, then yeah.
Here's the top 5 wide receivers to do it and to not do it since 2020. Wilson, Olave, Jamar Chase, and Jalen Waddle did it. The ones that didn't do it, Drake London, awful QB. Jamison Williams, suspended.
Yeah.
Had 1 catch that year. Devontae Smith, which was the most surprising one, Jerry Jeudy, and then Henry Ruggs. So there's not, he has the QB play. The only one really competing for a lot of volume over there is Trey McBride. I like Michael Wilson, but I don't think he's competing for a ton of volume versus Marvin Harrison Jr. So they'll have stable QB play. Even if Kyler Murray gets hurt, Marvin Harrison Jr. has the skill set to just put up yards with no matter who his QB is. Even if his QB is playing awful, you'll go look at the game and see Marvin Harrison Jr. with a good stat line.
Yeah. I'm going over here. Who's the number 2 receiver for the Cardinals?
Michael Wilson.
Our friend Greg Dolch.
Greg Dolch.
Can't forget about him.
You know what? I know Nate Tice gives me a hard time about that.
And dude, you've got a hard time.
But I'm gonna look up Greg Dolch's stats for people. No, that's not Greg. Greg Dolch is that fast tight end out of UCLA.
Oh my God! Well, then I'm going to get roasted even more since we got his name wrong. Oh my God! Last
year, Dortch. It's Greg Dortch, not Dolch.
Shit.
Last year he had 280 receiving yards.
That's Nate Tice's king.
Yeah, I mean he is fast, right?
He is your king.
He is fast.
This is the over under I really want to talk about.
But he has career 762 receiving yards, 467 in 2020, and then he didn't really get anything his first 3 years. But yeah, he's 5'7". All right.
If Olave and Wilson did it,
sorry, Nate.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to do it in a good situation.
Yeah.
Now here's a fun one. Again, it's the things that I feel that are pretty low. And we're going to do 2 groups of 2 for wide receivers. We'll keep going with the groups of 2. Tyreek Hill at 1375.5 and Ceedee Lamb at 1350.5. Bobby Skinner.
So Hill, I'm going over.
Yeah, he almost had 1,800 last year, right?
Yeah, he was 550 yards over, and he missed a game. Or I guess we changed that number because we were wrong. But he was very highly over last year, and he missed a game. CeeDee Lamb, I'm going under. Now, he blew it out of the water last year with 1750. But he was 9 yards over in 2022 with a ton of targets. This is just a hard number to do it. And I went and looked. No one has done this the last 3 years. Been over on this number. So it's just like there's just too many. Like if he misses a game, this is a really hard number. And again, last year, I think he was targeted 181 times last year.
Which led the league by far. And also, not only was he targeted 181 times, you have a 74.6% catch rate when you're targeted 181 times.
Yeah, or success rate. Is Dallas going to run it back with that as their game plan, right? And we saw it catch up to them in the Green Bay game. It's just so hard to do that 3 years. Again, nobody has done that the last 3 years. So yeah. I'm going under on.
I'm also going.
He was barely over in 2022 when he was heavily targeted as well.
Right. I'm also
played the
going
full
under.
season.
And his success rate. You mentioned success rate. His year last year, 63.5% success rate. When if you're looking at I look at his 2022 55.1, it's like that's a damn good success rate. What was Tyreek Hill's success rate? I'm gonna beat you to it.
I'm not looking. I'm seeing if you're getting.
It's 57.9.
That is an insanely high success rate.
63%. I just don't think that's going to be replicated again. So I'm going under for CeeDee Lamb, but confidently going over for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, if he had back-to-back years where he blew it out of the water, then I would be saying the way that Tyreek Hill has.
Yeah.
But see, again, 9 yards over in 2022. Last year was a big year. I just don't. If he misses a game or two, it makes it a really hard number to hit. So.
All right, then the last 2 wide receivers we're going to talk about: Jamar Chase at 1,250.5, and then Justin Jefferson at 1,275.5.
Jefferson's is so easy. I mean, he missed 7 games last year and was 200 yards off this. 7 games. You know how much fucking games that is to be 200 yards off of this number? So it's basically miss a game and a half less. If he missed 5.5 games last year, he hits this number.
And he did not have Kirk Cousins for his final 5 games, right?
I think it was more than that. I think it was, the final because he was injured during that stretch.
Where he had 2 catches for 27 yards against that was the 3-0 game against the Raiders. I'm not counting that game because that game will never happen again. 7 catches, 10 targets, 84 yards against the Bengals. 6 catches, 141 yards against the Lions. 5 catches for 59 against the Packers. And he ended off the year with a bang because he needed to get over 1,000 receiving yards. 12 catches, 14 targets, 192 yards, and that was all without Kirk Cousins, and they were in QB limbo last year.
Yeah. Chase is the hard one because he's only done this once in 3 years, and that was his rookie year. Now, he had a career low yards per game last year, and missed a game and missed this mark by 30 yards, right? And they also didn't have Joe Burrow in that. So I'm going to go over on this one, but it's really relying on him not missing more than a couple games and Joe Burrow not missing games. If Joe Burrow misses games again, then this is going to be under. Because you still have T. Higgins there. I know you lost Tyler Boyd, but Chase is really what makes that offense run.
So this is 1250, huh?
Again, done that once in 3 years.
Yeah, I'm going to go under. The Bengals may or may not be my Super Bowl team because we're going to have an episode on that, and we'll talk about it. But Chase has been a guy that has, even when he's been healthy and he's been out there, I feel like he's been struggling with some stuff. They've been known to get off to slow starts in Cincinnati. That's actually why I want them to play a lot this preseason, because they've been a very, very slow start team, and I feel like getting out there in the preseason should help them, and at least should help Joe Burrow. So I'm going to go under for Jamar Chase, and it's not trusting, again, the ability to just be out there.
All right, let's hit the running backs.
Rushing yards, Breece Hall, 1,050.5 yards, Bobby Skinner. This is one of the easiest overs for me. You want to know why?
Why?
Second year coming off the ACL. A much, much better Jets offensive line. He almost reached this mark last year while also averaging 4.5 yards per carry. The success rate was not good for Breece Hall last year.
The yards per carry was good, though.
But the yards per carry is very good, which was a horrible offensive situation where you knew that they were simply relying on Breece Hall to try and carry them or even break a big run. I think Breece Hall is having an insane year this year. I think he's going to continue to get dump-offs out of the backfield, too. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers does utilize that. And, if I'm fantasy football talk, Breece Hall right now, I have to really convince.
Is this rushing or total yards?
This is rushing.
Okay. So you just made a point for where one of my points against. I think he gets enough receiving touches that I don't think there will be this need to get him a ton of touches on the ground on an Aaron. Even though, okay, well, now they have a more successful offense. Well, they're also going to want to throw the ball more. Whereas Zach Wilson is can we throw the ball as little as possible because this guy fucking sucks. Now, again, when you're not on the field, you can't get rushing attempts. He was 14th last year in attempts and missed it by 56 yards. Only 4 backs had more than this, right? So you see that number of 1,050, and you see what such a great back that Breece Hall is, easy, but it's just not the way the NFL is. And you go look back at Green Bay running backs with Rodgers. Aaron Jones' most career rushing yards was 1,120. Now more of a two-headed attack, and that's something Breece Hall has from him. Is he really has no proven back to go with, right? They have Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin, a rookie, and then Isaiah Davis, rookie out of South Dakota State.
Funny story about South Dakota.
Sucker punch Dallas Goedert. So again, and the fact that they're gonna get him his touches in the receiving game. That I don't know if he's gonna get this volume in the rushing. And last year, like you said, they didn't have a successful rushing game, but he had 4.5 yards per carry, right? So I think it's just a hard sell. It's he's got to play the full season. They got to be willing to give him his touches and really not give many touches to the number two back. And Rodgers likes to throw the ball, and they've got kind of some of the weapons to do it. I don't think he hits this.
I think he averages over 5 yards per carry. He averaged 5.8 his rookie year. I don't think you're going to be able to repeat that.
Yeah, I would say so.
But 13.1 attempts per game. Bobby, for a running back that was taken in the first round?
Second, but yes.
That's low. Second round. That number is pretty low. And Aaron Jones has flirted around that mark in attempts per game the last couple of years. But like you said, they do have a two-headed monster there in Green Bay. Dude, I think the Jets should prioritize Aaron Rodgers' health this year. And one of the ways that you're going to do that is maybe not asking him to throw as much. I know he's going to want to throw, But also, I think they're going to be able to run the damn ball. I think they're going to have the offensive line to do it. I think Breece Hall is that good, and especially if take advantage of it being the second year off the ACL. I am super high on him, and I think this is an easy 994 last year with a horrible offensive situation. Horrible.
But he played the full season last year too,
and he did. And I think I think he can play the full season again. It's 2020. Hey, play a full season this year. Get another 225 touches and all the receiving work too. And then 2024 is a different. Or 2025 is a different question on if you can handle that workload and if you're going to get injured. But this year, I'm all in, man. I'm going over. But you're going. But under.
You can also they have a easier schedule this year.
Oh, much easier.
And you can just
if you're leading games, then you're gonna. I think they may kick the shit out of some teams.
They could also not give those carries to Breece Hall. He may have some games where he's not getting fourth quarter
make
touches.
Him happy.
And I'm just looking at. I'm looking at past Nathaniel Hackett rushing attacks, and there's really nothing comparable to the Jets situation, whether it's the Broncos' awful running back spot, but they do. Hackett likes. I
think you're undermining how good Breece Hall is. He's good.
But you're saying But again, he was really good last year, and he didn't do it with a good amount of rush. Only 4 guys in the NFL did it last year.
Over 1,050 rushing yards?
Yeah.
Oh, what happened to the NFL that I love?
That's the thing. If I didn't see that stat before, I would have. If 8 running backs had it, yes. But the 4 running backs who did it last year were Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, and James Cook.
That's how high I am on Hall this year. That I think he will be one of he will be one of those guys that can do it.
Listen, I'm not going to be shocked if he does it. Yeah. It's just I'm going under on it.
All right, this next one is
the easiest one of all time.
Interesting. Najee Harris, 825.5 rushing yards, over under.
He has 1,000 every year, and he has a run-heavy offense with an offensive coordinator who didn't want to give Bijan all of the touches.
But here's the question, man. There will be a player in this Steelers offense with Arthur Smith. I think this at least was an Atlanta thing where, hey, why isn't Drake London getting more touches? Why isn't Kyle Pitts getting more touches?
It was never the running back that wasn't getting the more touches in Atlanta.
Well, it was Bijan Robinson in a way. People wanted Tyler Algier was getting too many touches, arguably.
Yeah. Okay, what is more? That's a great situation. Like you have the guy who's kind of like the 1, and then the guy who's way more efficient is the 2. That's Najee with Jaylen Warren. And again, he's done it every single year of his career.
This is one that it's
and Bijan was over this number by 125 yards last year, and he was used much more as a receiver. Like they like to use him as a receiver, so they're going to use Jaylen Warren in those situations more than they are Najee.
This is the first name that I'm seeing here where if I had to place, if I'm a betting man and I'm placing money on the DraftKings Sportsbook, I'm not betting this because I'm staying away from anything that has anything to do with Arthur Smith and trying to predict offensive productivity.
Fair, but I think he's going to get it.
Do you think Jaylen? Well, I wonder what. Let's look up Jaylen Warren. Let's hypothetically put it at 750 as the number 2 in Pittsburgh.
750?
Yeah. What did he have last year?
784.
So I think 750.
And he was basically the most efficient back in the league last year.
Which are you gonna repeat that? A young offensive line.
He gives you much more receiving. Like again, if I'm thinking of an Arthur Smith offense, I think Najee's the one that's getting all the touches, the dirty touches, and Jalen's the guy they're trying to get in space a little more.
But then I can also see
they're going to run the ball a lot.
Oh, they are. But I can also see them. Like there are 2 candidates for Steelers fans or even fantasy football fans being absolutely pissed off that they're not being utilized more, and it's Najee Harris. And then I think people could be pissed off that George Pickens isn't even being used correctly either.
I think it's more likely that Jaylen Warren's not getting used.
Okay. No, that'll be fascinating to see how that plays out in Pittsburgh because Najee Harris is the one that has not been overall efficient. Now, his yards after
No,
contact.
his yards per carry is awful, but he still gets 1,000 every year.
No, but his yards after contact and his broken tackles are good. Like, that's like some of the more advanced stuff for Najee Harris is good, but just the success rate in the yards per carry is just awful. So I wonder where Arthur Smith's allegiance will lie, because I think we'll be able to detect it pretty early.
All right.
Bang.
Next.
So all right, I haven't given an answer. I've just said that I'm so afraid to.
You can't make all this argument and not say under.
So I have to say under?
Yeah. We've been arguing about it. We can't agree on it.
Under. Jahmy Gibbs, 900.5 rushing yards.
Over. I mean, he was over this last year, and he had 39 carries in the first 6 games. That's 6.5 per game for the kids at home. 11 per game to end the season. So if he just had 11 carries per game, which is not a lot, he would need to average 4.8 yards per carry. I'm going over on this.
I will also go over.
Again,
It's time to use him more.
39 carries in the first 6 games. Now he is their guy, second year as their the running back they traded up for. I think he gets it. And you got a fucking damn good rushing attack, offensive line to run behind there,
and I feel like he got stronger as the season went on too. He's still at 12.1 attempts per game, even with splitting carries with Montgomery like that.
He missed 2 games last year.
Montgomery was hurt a little bit too.
Wait, 12 carries per game
for Jahmy Gibbs.
I must have done
high.
That's DeAndre Swift.
That's DeAndre Swift. I did not expect it to be that high.
Are you sure it's 12 carries or 12 touches?
12 attempts per game. Rushing attempts.
I did some wrong math in the rest of the season. Sorry about that, kids.
They don't call you bad math, Bobby, for nothing.
I usually do good math.
Over. Jahmy Gibbs, 900.5. All right, Saquon Barkley, 1,000.5. I am going under.
You're a hater. He's going over. I mean, he goes over this every year that he plays a full season, and the seasons that he doesn't, he gets close, and that's been behind awful Giants offensive lines. Swift had 1,050 last year and wasn't even their top back to start the year. Miles Sanders had 1,269, 2 years ago. Saquon, and this is a good offensive line. This is a good offensive situation. They are a team that's going to want to run the ball. Kellen Moore is an offensive coordinator who wants to run the ball and has had a lot of success doing it. I go over on this.
He's done this once since 2020, twice since 2019, and he only squeaked out 3 additional yards in 2019. I think this is a dude that just gets hurt.
Okay, so he missed 3 games last year.
Yep.
Behind an awful run block. Had nowhere to go. He had 962 last year.
We've also seen Barkley take steps back as a runner every single year, too.
The year before, now he's behind the Eagles' offensive line. The year before, 1,300 rushing yards. 2021, coming off the ACL, he was awful with 600 yards, missed 4 games. Missed all of 2020, and then he did it his first 2 years in the NFL, while missing 16 game seasons and missed 3 games in 2019. So I think even if he plays 13 games, which is basically the injury that Saquon gets, is a sprained ankle. He's had a sprained ankle 3 times in his career, and then he had the torn ACL.
Yep.
So if he sprains his ankle, misses 3-4 games, I still think he hits this behind this Eagles offensive line.
I wonder where and
they didn't sign him to not use him either.
I wonder where his attempts per game are going to lie, because every single year, besides 2020 where he tore his ACL, then 2021 coming off the ACL, every single year with the Giants, it's been in the teens. 16.3, 16.7, 18.4, and 17.6.
I'm going to look up Miles Sanders' stats.
What was his attempts per game?
15, his most recent year.
15. All right, that would be his career low in a year that he plays more than 13 games.
Yeah, but that's still a lot of carries per game.
And odds are he's going to be more efficient.
Yeah, and that's a year Sanders broke this number by over 200 yards.
Yeah. All right, I'm going under.
I'm going over.
Because I'm a hater. Known Saquon Barkley hater, Justin Pennick. Do you want to end it off with sacks?
Yeah, I think we only have one category, right?
Yeah, only one more category left. We have Montez Sweat. This is odd. 8.75.
Yeah. No, it's not odd because you can have
have a half a sack. Never mind. I'm a betting man.
I'm going under. I mean, his career high before last year was 9. He's the only guy on that front. So when you're an offense, who do you have to stop up front? It's the only guy is Montez Sweat, unless some of their younger guys like Gervin Dexter really take a step in year 2. So I'm going to go under. And he doesn't have the playing style that's like he's a sack hunter, right? He's kind of like a more consistent pressure, play with strength. He's not just a all-out sack hunter. So before last year, his career high was 9. Now, what he does have going to is he may have a fucking great secondary behind him that allows him to make plays, sacks. And he could be the only guy to get sacks on the team. So he could go over, but I'm going to go under on this.
I'm going to go over.
I think it goes right at 8.
I'm going to go over for that exact reason for the secondary point, because I think he is a guy that does get consistent pressure, and that is usually an indicator for those sacks every single year. And I think him on the Bears is fun, and he kind of helped unlock that Chicago Bears defense towards the second half of the year last year. So I'm going over, and I'm not shocked if Montez Sweat gets to double-digit sacks. I've always viewed him as a very underrated pass rusher anyway. Montez Sweat is the only edge rusher that I bolded. Is there anybody else that you specifically want to go to?
How about Trayvon Walker, 8.75?
You're going under.
Yeah, under. Fake season last year. How about what's Cave? They should have put Kayvon's on there.
No. But I can't believe Dexter Lawrence. We have on our document Dexter Lawrence is at 4.25.
See, I actually think that's low because he doesn't get a lot of sacks every year, but he's gotten that market every year except for 2021, basically.
So I mean, I'm putting, if I could put $1,000 on that, I would
do it responsibly. All right. Do we have anything else?
No. That's basically it. Comment your over-unders. Maybe we'll have Mikey included in the description. How do you like that? Then you can copy and paste it to your own comment and then answer.
Yeah, either follow me or Justin, and we'll see who makes more money at the end of the year.
Boom. Thank you to DraftKings. And thank you to you for listening.
First Giants depth chart is announced, even though this doesn't mean shit.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We will see you on... When do we see you? Friday.
We will see you on Friday. We'll see you then. Enjoy. Wish Chris Rose luck at his next endeavor. You'll be hearing more about that in the upcoming week. Until then, we'll have a great time. See ya. Bye. End of podcast.